vision of the founders was to convert dry and arid land in the vicinity of Pondicherry, Oroville area into a proper forest. Now, if you actually go look at their website, they have screenshots of the Google Maps view from 2003 and then in 2013. There is a marked difference to how completely green and black it is right now. In the span of a decade, they have converted a tropical dry arid land into a proper forest. Now, Sadhana Forest won the third place in the humanitarian water and food award in the year 2010. Now, this award was sponsored by the University of Copenhagen, Denmark, on November 25th, 2010. Now, today we have with us Kate Friedman. Her talk is mostly going to be about afforestation, restoring back the natural greenery, and also a bit on water conservation, considering the fact that it's dry and arid land. This concept, they've named it as tropical dry evergreen forest. The forest that they create, they will be known as tropical dry evergreen forest.
Do you want me to do the slides for you?
Hi everyone, my name is Kate Friedman. I am a long-term volunteer at Sadhana Forest, Oroville, which means that I've committed to being there for a year or more, and I'm also the project director. So Sadhana Forest was founded 11 years ago by an Israeli family that was looking to reforest or afforest super arid land. And what they came upon in Oroville was 70 acres being offered to them to steward, to take care of, in exchange for regrowing the trees that were indigenous there, which happened to be the tropical dry evergreen forest. We call it the TDEF. It used to go from Chennai all the way down to Kanyakumari, and now there's 0.01% left. So this is our mission. We have 1,000 volunteers a year, anywhere from 50 to 150 at a time. They come for 2 to 4 weeks minimum. They're not allowed to stay less, so that they can get the full experience and really see what we're doing in the forest. The exceptions to this, however, are people over 40, families, and Indian residents have a 2-day minimum stay, because we know that sometimes you can't get away for that long. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our community. I've broken it down into different areas of sustainability in the community. So first we'll talk about water. So in our kitchen, we have a water pump, very much like the ones used traditionally in the villages that surround us. And we do this for a couple of different reasons. First, we do it because we want to have a replicable technology that is usable in all of the areas around us. The second reason we do this is to really help people be conscious of how much water they're using. It takes about 30 pumps of water on the water pump to fill a bucket. And so this is a really great lesson, especially in how heavy the water is and helping us think about how much we actually need to use when we're getting it. So the way that we wash our hands at Sadhana Forest is a little different. We have cups chained to posts that have tiny holes at the bottom, and then we have a wash bucket that we fill every day with clean water. And so to wash your hands, use about half a cup of water, and then we have, you can kind of see it behind him in the plastic bottle, an all-natural plant-based biodegradable soap that's made in Oroville. And we do this for a couple different reasons. One, again, to really be conscious of how much water you're using, but also, I didn't take this photo well. The plank that he's standing on faces downward into a permaculture sponge so that all of the water is getting reused as it runs off into a giant ditch filled with vegetation that loves water. So the water is getting a second life. Here are our dishwashing stations. This is another typical way of washing dishes in South India. We have ash from our stove that we use as soap. This is the oldest soap in the world. We use the husks of coconuts as scrubbers or sponges, and we scrub our dishes, rinse them in the 3 small buckets, and then we let them soak in the last bucket. We add iodine to it to sanitize it the second time, and then we put them in the sun to sanitize them a third time. With a community of so many changing people all the time, we're very conscious of hygiene. Here are our showers. We have outdoor showers. They're buckets, bucket showers. We have some indoor showers. It kind of just means they're in a hut with a roof. And some volunteers have drilled holes in the bottom of buckets and hung them up so that you can very, very quickly dump a lot of water in and make it feel like a traditional shower. Something that happens a lot in the community is the showers are on the opposite side of the community from the kitchen where the water pump is. It's about a 5-minute walk. And lots of times when new volunteers come, they take their bucket from the shower area, walk all the way over to the kitchen, start pumping their water, they fill the bucket all the way up, they realize it's really heavy and they can't carry it, they drag it all the way back across the community, and then shower. And without a doubt, this always happens. 30, 40 minutes later, they'll come running up to me or another long-term volunteer and say, "You're not going to believe this. I only needed half the bucket." And this happens with laundry as well. It's really eye-opening to think about how much water we're always using when we leave faucets on or taps running, and just really how much water we need. This is our laundry area. Both the laundry and the showers also have slates of rock that dip into permaculture sponges. So all of our water is getting used again, and because we're using vegan, biodegradable, plant-based soaps, there's no harm in it going back into the soil. We also have a small pool, giving some cool, refreshing relief to our volunteers, but it's also watering the garden on a daily basis, particularly in an area that's very heavy, very concentrated, and doesn't receive as much rainwater in the ground. All right, so let's talk about power. So Sadhana Forest is completely run on solar power. We have 8 huge solar panels that produce about 5 kilowatts of energy per hour. It's about 50 kilowatts per day. And in the community, we only have power in our main hut, which is kind of like our living room. We eat there, we have workshops there, and also in the kitchen for lights and for some idli grinding. We do this because if we had power throughout the whole community, we wouldn't be a community. By restricting the power and the internet just to the main hut and the kitchen, we can be assured that people are going to congregate together, spend time together, get to know each other, and not be on their screens in their huts all day long. We also have bicycle generators that are not as effective. It takes about 4 people biking for 4 to 5 hours to produce lights for 3 to 4 hours. So we use these in monsoon season if we feel like we really need them. But otherwise we just go without power if it's raining. We also have a bicycle blender that one of our volunteer engineers rigged up for us that has a blender on the back of the bicycle so that we can make chutneys if we don't have any normal power. We also make plant food in the bicycle blender by mixing up neem leaves and vitamin leaf and some other plants and herbs that grow in the garden to help our sick trees. All right, rainwater. So in 2008, Abhiram and Nurit Rosen, the founders of our community, realized that in order to grow trees, we needed to do a tremendous amount of water conservation. They initially were planting trees by just digging a hole in the ground, putting a seed in, covering it up, and hoping nature would take over. This did not work. The ground was way too dry. So in 2008, we brought in some JCBs, and we dug 8 earth dams that have filled over the years with monsoon water. They're always full, they're never dry. Even 3 years ago, when we had a pretty mild monsoon, Our volunteers swim in them, and they've helped to feed the entire forest. We've planted about 29,000 trees on our 70 acres, but hundreds of thousands more have grown just because the soil is moist now. So we have other tremendous water conservation efforts that we've used to contour the land so that when the rain falls, we can get absorbed into the ground as close to where it fell as possible. And so by having funds and swales, which are different kinds of compacted earth mounds, kind of like pathways, we can ensure that the rainwater won't run off. The best time to go look in the forest is when it's raining to see where the water is flowing, and that helps us know where the next funds and swales are going to go. We also have a gabion because our check dam that the government built wasn't working as well as to cross our 70 acres of land. We've raised the water table over 6 meters. Not just for us, but for the surrounding villages. So this means that in the local villages, their wells are not only full, but the water's not salty. A lot of the times what happens here is because it's so hot and the water evaporates, we're left with a tremendous amount of salination. That's not good for the soil. But this has been a huge part in keeping all of the wells full. Okay, so let's talk about waste. So we compost all of our food material. We separate it by raw foods, cooked foods, and citrus foods. Raw foods take a long time to compost. Cooked foods, it depends on how much salt and oil is in the food. And citrus we keep separate because it changes the pH balance of the soil. Our typical way of composting food is we dig a hole and we do 50-50 food compost and dry matter. And you mix it up and churn it every day. And within a few months it's back to soil. This is one of our volunteers mixing up the compost. So we also use compost toilets, and we keep our pee and our poo separate. Our pee goes into the Eastern style toilet, and sometimes we save it and turn it into ammonia to put back into the garden. Sometimes it goes through a gray water system, depending on how much water we need, what time of year it is. And that also goes back into the gardens with the tree on it. And we mix it also 50-50 with sawdust. Within 3 to 6 months, that can go back into the forest as soil. Within 9 to 12 months, you can grow food on it. And so again, I very much like what you said about waking up in the morning and the first thing you do is pollute. I always love not doing that. Oil doesn't smell like anything. It's really lovely. It goes back into the forest every day. And the barrels you see in the back are all dated on top so that we know when they're ready. So in terms of waste, we also have a zero waste initiative where we're trying to reuse, recycle, or biodegrade 80% of our waste. And so we have a tremendous recycling hub with everything separated. Certain companies that make products in certain containers can go right back to those companies and they'll sanitize and reuse them. We're in Oroville. This is true of many of the things they make there. Pesto, kombucha. And this is also a place where anytime someone wants to make a project, they'll come to look for supplies. And so everything's getting another life. So in the 1980s in Oroville, lots of these, but because the land was really dry, nothing happened. Along comes us, and we made the ground nice and wet, and all of a sudden we have this invasive species of acacia trees growing. We use this for firewood and for mulching in the forest, so that it's not going to waste. And as we plant more of the tropical dry evergreen forest, the acacia trees die out. In our kitchen we use rocket stoves. This is a technology made in Pondicherry. So the orange part is a skirt, and the pot is made to fit inside of it. So instead of in a traditional stove where the pot would go on top, it fits inside the stove, and there's very little room around it, very little space. And so we can use a concentrated amount of wood, get a concentrated amount of heat, and they're virtually smokeless. And when we think about local villages, Amma's cooking and huts with low ceilings, we really want to make sure that there's as little smoke as possible. to prevent lung problems. All right, are you ready for the reforestation part? I had a video, but it's not going to play, about how we plant trees here. I'll just tell you a little bit about it. We use wick irrigation bottles that we plant with our saplings. A wick irrigation bottle is an empty 2-liter water bottle with a hole at the bottom. There's a cotton rope strung through it, that's the wick. We seal it with some epoxy, and we also add a little electrical tubing. And we plant this in a mound right next to the sapling of the tree, with the end of the cotton rope touching the taproot. And we do this as a way to get water directly to the roots of the tree. If anybody here has ever grown anything in India, you know that if you water from the top, it all evaporates. Nothing goes down to the roots. So this is a way to get water directly to the roots. In addition, by keeping the cap closed almost completely on the bottle when it's full, we can create displacement. So that as air goes into the bottle, the water trickles out the bottom, and a 2-liter bottle can last for 40 days. And so, particularly when it's really hot and dry, which it is right now, and we're not prepared for this just yet, we can fill all of these water bottles and keep our trees alive. Throughout the community, we also have quite a few permaculture sponges and gardens. Earlier, this gentleman was speaking about rodents coming in and eating all of the food. In permaculture, because you're planting so many different things together, you create layers and canopies, and the rodents won't come in and eat stuff because there's not just a whole field of one thing they like. They have to scavenge for it, and so they might get one thing, or one at one time, but you won't get hordes of them coming in and wrecking all of your crops, this garden. This is an herb garden that's growing tulsi, vitamin leaf, chicken spinach, moringa. So with our poo, we've also taken some organic dry matter that is from the forest, termite-eaten wood, and layered it across fields, and then let the termites churn it up. And by doing this, we've been able to turn some of these huge fields into really lush growing areas without anything other than poo and normal things you would find in the forest. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of our community values that make Sadhana Forest special. The first one is veganism. Our entire community is vegan, which means we don't eat any animal products from living or deceased animals. We also don't use any products that are tested on animals, and we don't buy or purchase any products made from animals. And we do this for several reasons. So we believe in ahimsa. So we believe in ahimsa, the pursuit of living peacefully, and we believe that if we're going to be peaceful to animals, we have to think about what happens to them during these processes. Even with milking a cow, which lots of people think is okay, another way to think about it is that in order for the cow to make milk, she has to be impregnated. Often this is very forcefully and against her will. She has to stay impregnated so that she can keep producing milk, and her calf has to be separated from her in order for the milking process to happen. Not only is this violent for the cows, it's also violent for the human workers that have to do this. If you've ever separated or seen a mother and a calf being separated, it's very painful. They cry and scream for each other for hours. And so these are the kinds of things that we're always thinking about. We also think about how much land is used to produce the grain to feed these animals, and all of that could be growing fruits and vegetables for us to eat and living in a more peaceful way. We were talking earlier about millets. We eat a lot of millets at Sadhana Forest. We have ragi porridge, baragu. Here we also have smoothies, idli. I'm holding a besan pancake with some pesto. Another one of our community values is human unity. This is also one of the principles that Oroville was founded on. And it's the idea that together we're stronger than we are alone, Abhiram, our founder, likes to say that our community is like the forest. The more diverse it is, the stronger it is. And so we don't have doors on Sadhana Forest. Everyone is welcome. We accept everyone for who they are. We celebrate your skills and your talents. We don't turn people away. This is a meal in the main hut, our living room. So we also practice gift economy at Sadhana Forest. This is different from exchange economy. Exchange economy is when I have something and you need it, so you pay me for it and I give it to you. It's a direct exchange. It often involves money. It can also be a trade. It creates competition. At Sadhana Forest, we try as much as possible to operate on a gift economy, which is the idea that we can all support each other. Right? So if I need a water bottle, I might say, hey, does anyone out there have a water bottle, an extra one to spare? And someone might have it and give it to me because they hear that my voice is gone. And I don't owe him anything. He's just supporting the community in the way that he can and trusting in the fact that whenever anyone needs something, they'll be able to ask for it. Communication is really important, an important part of this, and that the community will support them. It requires a tremendous deal of trust and faith in the people around you, but it works really well for us. So all of our volunteers follow this schedule. Seva is a Sanskrit word that means selfless service. And so all of the volunteers who come to Sadhana are there to volunteer. That's a gift that they're giving us. Our volunteers also gift us with their skills and talents in workshops. And you can see here all different kinds of workshops. Sometimes there are so many they don't fit on the board. And a gift that we provide our volunteers is our knowledge over the years of reforestation in dry lands. And we're not saying that what we know is perfect or right. We're just saying this is what we've experimented with, this is what works for us. Give it a try yourself. If you figure something out that works better, come back and let us know. So we also practice non-competition at Sadhana Forest. This is one of our more subtle values. Lots of times it's not until after volunteers leave that it kind of dawns on them that the community they were in, Sadhana Forest, was really different from the outside world. So in typical life, normal life, we're filled with competition. In school, you're competing for better grades, for a better seat in the classroom. At work, you're competing for a promotion, or a better desk, or a better office. And this creates sometimes an unhealthy feeling. We're not saying the competition is bad, we're just saying this is another thing to think about. And so at Sadhana Forest, we don't play any games or sports. We don't do anything that involves a winner or a loser. We have lots of really fun non-competitive games that maybe I can show you later, or play with you later. We also have untalent shows where anyone can come up and perform. This is a 3-year-old who's telling us a story and playing a guitar. And we're not telling him that he's doing it right or wrong or good or bad, or that he does or doesn't know how to play the guitar. It's up to him to share with us. One of our community values is unschooling, and we practice this in a project within Sadhana Forest called Children's Land. So unschooling is the idea that if you trust children and give them the space and freedom, they will make their own decisions about what they learn, and it will be okay. So all of the families that live at Sadhana Forest, their children do not go to school. Their children are seen as valued members of the community who contribute what they like. They can climb trees, they can climb the huts if they'd like, they can participate in sevas, they can go in the forest and plant. It's really up to them. And it's up to us to give them that space and freedom and to watch them and see what they're interested in. And if the children exhibit a tremendous interest in something, we help facilitate that, right? We might offer experiences that lead to that, or tools or resources that can help them follow those passions. And Children's Land is a project within Sadhana Forest where every day of the week, children from all different areas, villages, schools, after-school programs, kindergartens, come to Sadhana Forest, spend the morning being unschooled. And so the adults who come with them, always in the beginning, are like, don't sit that way, cross your legs, stop picking your nose, you didn't say please and thank you. And we say to them, whoa, these kids are told what to do all day, every day. This is their space and time to make their own choices. Step back. And it's always a good 3 to 4 weeks later that you notice a shift in the teachers or the adults who are with the kids who are really able to take a step back and watch the kids and really come up with thoughtful observations about what they're noticing that they wouldn't have noticed had they been directing the kids as much as they normally do. So the last one of our values that I'd like to share with you is that as a community, we are substance free. We do not allow anyone to smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, or do drugs inside or outside of the community. We ask all of our volunteers to sign a declaration promising that they will abide by this. And if they break it, we ask them to leave for 6 months, and then if they want to come back and try again, they can. I think this is pretty self-explanatory why we do this. But on a side note, lots of people come because they know this to try and quit smoking cigarettes. Lately we've had some very lovely success stories of couples who come and quit smoking. So I'd briefly like to share with you just some of the other things that we're doing outside of Oroville, because sometimes people say, this is so amazing, why are you keep doing it in just one spot? Share it with more people. So we have another project, it's not a community, but it's a project in Luniketi in Madhya Pradesh, where there's about 600 people in the village and not a lot of rainfall. And so we went in and just like we dug earth dams in Sadhana forest, we brought JCBs and lots of volunteers and we dug earth dams there. And now they're able to grow trees because they have water in the ground. We've also worked in Omkareshwar in Madhya Pradesh in the Navadala River, where there are ashrams and ashram schools and no trees. It's really hot. And so we've done annual workshops there with the children, planting trees all over the island. It's made quite a difference. So in 2010, there was an earthquake in Haiti. The island, it shares an island with Dominican Republic between the United States and Colombia. It's in the Caribbean. And lots of NGOs were going in and offering very temporary support. And someone called our founder, Aviram, and said what they need is a sustainable project. And so we created another community there. It's not for an extinct forest, it's for food forestry because of the scarcity of food. And so there we're growing saplings of the Mayan nut tree, which is an indigenous tree there. You can eat the nuts, you can roast the nuts, you can mill them into flour and make bread with them. The roots of the tree have medicinal properties to superfood. And just now, last week, our founder Aviram was in Haiti visiting the project, and the first trees were fruiting. So that was really huge for us. The goal there is also not to have concentrated forests of food, but to be handing these saplings out to local villages and families and teaching them how to care for them so that they can be responsible to grow their own food and not have to rely on anyone else. And last year we also started a community in Kenya, very similar. It's food forestry, and it's in an area where there's lots of nomadic tribes, and it's really hard for them to get food in the markets. And this is a way for them to grow their own food. We help them build fences around them, and the zebras don't eat them. And we're offering a permaculture design course in June and July this year. Everyone is welcome to come. All you have to do is pay your airfare and food, and it's 2 months of planting with the team. We also have an eco-film club every single Friday of the year where I do a tour or someone else does a tour of the community in the forest, followed by an environmentally themed film and then a free vegan dinner made by our volunteers. The whole night is free. Everyone's welcome to come. We have a free bus that takes you to and from our area in Oroville. And you're all invited. Any Friday. Thank you. The Sanskrit word, a sadhan is an archer, and sadhana is the focus that he needs to make his arrow go straight on his path. So it's a metaphor for following this path of reforestation and sticking with it. Our volunteer requirements are 2 weeks in the off season, 4 weeks in the high season, but we have different requirements for other groups of people. So if you're over 40 or you have a family, there's no requirement, because we know that sometimes this lifestyle might not work for you. And if you're an Indian resident, we ask you to spend 2 nights with us, because we feel like that's a fair amount to give you a good picture of what we're doing. But we also recognize that you have families and other responsibilities, and don't just have like 3 months of vacation to go travel the world. But you're welcome to stay longer. And we have several Indian residents who are with us.
How did you get into Sadhana forest?
How did I get into Sadhana forest? So I taught kindergarten special ed in New York City for 10 years and was really fed up with the school system and how directed it was, and really just wanted to practice unschooling without actually knowing what reschooling was. That's kind of what I was doing. I was already living a vegan lifestyle and practicing a gift economy. And one summer I said to a friend I'd really like to go to India, and she told me about Polamaa forest, and I booked my flight. Then I got my visa.
Do you do any small-scale projects like this, or is it? Because I see that you've gone to one different day. I see that you're operating on a very big scale, like 78 people extended. So do you have any small-scale projects which could actually fit in? That's more from the same question that I had with the other person at the other day. So I'm trying to see if there are these kind of models which can actually get into the mainstream city kind of
He's asking about small-scale projects. What's difficult with reforestation is it's one thing to speak about it, but the way that you really learn it is by coming and doing it. And so by having our doors open all the time and welcoming everyone to stay for as long as they can, I think that we feel like that's the best way to do it. Adiram, our founder, is doing a yatra this month. He's going to visit 7 or 8 different farms around the perimeter of Tamil Nadu with a team of farmers from these places, and spending 2 or 3 days in each one, studying the land, looking at the contours, building funds in the soils, looking at where the rain will flow, and helping make decisions that will hopefully benefit the land and make the water fertile.
Thank you. I have another question. So the question is, I'm not sure if you're aware of what the current thing is. The farmers are struggling a lot, and it is one of the decline that they see when it comes to seeing benefits or progression in the kind of occupation they're into. And I also see on the other side, on the other hand, like the organization like yours and Arun's coming up and being very successful with the kind of techniques that you're following. So, do you think that people like you can always reach out to the people who are into farming in the villages and provide them a lending hand, a helping hand?
So we actually do this often. All you have to do is call and ask, and we'll put 10 volunteers on a bus and send them. We also have workshops, both permaculture design workshops and farming and arid land workshops that we offer free of charge several times a year that last 3 days. We just had one at the end of February. We had about 50 local small farmers come and they spent the weekend with us, and they went out to the forest every morning with our team and looked at the contours of the land and how to reshape them, and kind of looked at the history of what we've done, what worked, what hasn't, how we've developed the evolution of our wood variegation techniques.
Very simple thing. I understand it's 70 acres of land and you reforested and all that. But is the only aim just to sustain within that community, or is there, are you trying to commercialize a little bit and there's also more? Are you trying to make it just for that community over there, or are you trying to show it as a model that can be commercialized?
So it's certainly a replicable model, but the goal of Sadhana forest is to not let this tropical dry evergreen forest die. So that's our goal, to keep that going, to grow as much as we can of it. If Oracle brings us more land, we'll grow more of it.
Okay, how much percentage has been completed out of this?
Of the 70 acres? We planted about probably 30 to 40% of it. Some of it that we planted in the very beginning didn't work. We only had a 40% survival rate then. And so slowly we're going to be going back into those areas. We now have an 80 to 90% survival rate of our trees. So it's worth going back and fixing things up.
And the forest sustains itself, or do you still need to put a lot of volunteering effort in it to keep it going?
The parts of the forest that we've done water conservation efforts in pretty much sustain themselves. It's during monsoon season that we go out and check to see where the water is flowing, and then we can make adjustments in how high a bund is, or we need to add another bund. But the trees are taking care of themselves. We're imagining that within a few years, the trees might even start rejecting them with irrigation bottles. For now, we're going to leave them in there, because sometimes the trees get sick, and it's helpful to have a direct line to the taproot.
Financial input you need for this to sustain. How many financial, how much?
I don't have an exact figure for you. Our volunteers pay for their food, and our food comes from local farms. In terms of infrastructure, we rely on grants and donations. We're trying to keep the economy as much as possible. And we've built more over time. We have one of our dorms, there's some holes in the roof and it leaks every monsoon season. The heat, we're experimenting this year with heat compressed holes for roofing.
Do you have some kind of a training here, or is it more just workshops that's given out to people? Now, if someone wants to join your organization, do they have to go through a training period before they can start really working on training?
So you don't have to email someone else, you have to go through a training period with us. We give you a 1 to 2 hour orientation of the community when you first come, and the next day you go to the forest at 6 o'clock in the morning, and hopefully if you can stay for at least 2 weeks, you'll get it all. The people who stayed right here are more that become our forest managers and garden managers and have a real handle of the 170 different species that we're growing. And how much charcoal we want to put in. We've been experimenting with different kinds of soil that are harvested under indigenous plants to see if it helps. We've also been planting oxalogenic trees lately, which fix the carbon into the soil. It's calcium carbonate, as limestone, instead of releasing it into the atmosphere, creating more greenhouse gases. And some of those fixtures are also part of the tropical dry urban forest. So whenever you come, you're going to learn whatever we're doing now, and bits and pieces of what we used to do, and the longer amount of time you spend with us and working in the forest, the more you can get a look at how the project works, and what kinds of things you might want to bring back to wherever you're from, to work on your land.
So do you have a market where you sell the grown vegetables?
We don't sell anything, and we don't grow fruits and vegetables. We're growing an almost extinct forest. We get our fruits and vegetables from local organic farms in Oroville. And there are certainly species of the tropical dry evergreen forest that do grow food. There are lots of berries that grow that have religious significance, cultural value, medicinal properties. But it's not our goal to create forests and sell them or use them. It's really to map the forest folks in.
It's not even medicines.
There are certainly local villagers who come and pick them and use them, but we're not in the business of selling our own ones.
And not for selling, but at least to...
My question may not relate directly to the topic at hand. Anyways, I'll ask it. You told us that you are a vegan. So what I want to ask is, I have been a vegetarian for the past 8 months, but I'm finding it difficult to convince my friends about accepting it. So when I tell them that it's not good to eat animals or to harm them, they ask me what about plants? Because at the end of the day, they are also sentient beings. So how do you explain it? What is your perspective on that?
I say that my body's not a graveyard. Plants go through a process of decomposing and regenerating when they come from animals. They have bones, There's no blood. There's no brain. I also don't need to convince my friends. I just, this is how I am, and something out this way. And if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But a lot of my friends have come around over the years.
I think it has only one sense, so it doesn't make sense to. No, blank has only one sense as far as I know, so it's okay.
Studies have proved that we don't know exactly the kind of technology and such, the kind of senses they have.
Yeah, but with an animal, you're keeping 100%.
If you don't mind hurting, a goat in its lifetime would probably eat about 40 kgs of green vegetables, grass and all of that. But if that much land was spent growing wheat or something, you can live for a whole month on it. But the goat would die and be on your dinner table for 1 week. So the amount of grain used to feed a chicken, if you can feed a whole class of them.
I also see that the Sadhana versus Sadhana. So are you able to attend the alternate energy as well as part of the besides the solar, is there anything else?
So he's asking about alternative power sources. At Sadhana Powers in India, we're just using solar power. However, in Haiti and Kenya, we're also using wind power with energy, and in Haiti, we're using water. Those are project communities that we live in, they're places that we visit.
I maybe stupid asking this question. Do you drink milk?
No. I do coconut milk, almond milk, cashew milk, soy milk. Not camel, chocolate milk. Thank you, everyone.